out there in podcast land is Paul Farren talking for Film Ireland. I'm here with Mark O'Connor, the director and co-writer of Cardboard Gangsters. We're going to talk a little bit how he does his magic and encourage you to go and see his film. So Mark, let's get into it. Cardboard Gangsters, tell us a little bit about the film and where it came from. And
so the film is, it's coming out June 16 in the cinemas. It's set in Darndale, and it was originally written by John Connors, who plays the lead role in the film, Jay. And it's about four best friends from the area who are kind of stuck on social welfare, or they're kind of unemployed. They're just hanging around in that kind of in-between stage in their life, and they're low-level drug dealing, and they see the local kingpin of the area, Darragh Murphy, and what he has, and they aspire to be him and to have what he wants, what he has, but they're not really, they're not psychopaths, so they can't really become like him, but they just want the glamorous kind of lifestyle that he has.
This story came from John originally, and then you worked on it with him. And John has lived in Darndale for a good part of his life, hasn't he? And he would have
John's
his own
from
observations.
John's from the area, he's lived there for years. He's just moved out recently into a campsite where his grandmother lives. Him and his mother have moved out, and his brother Packy. But he knows the area. So there was an authenticity to the world, and that's the reason I came on board as a writer. So he wrote the original script. He worked on it for 2 years, and then we were kind of struggling with the funding, trying to get different production companies on board, and eventually John said, will you direct the film? And I thought there was a foundation there of a good story, the connection between Darragh and Kim, and also between Jay and Darragh, but also Jay and his father. There was kind of and there was also a lot of realistic stuff that we could bring into the story. I felt it was something that I could fashion it in a way that this is a film I can make, This is a film that I can incorporate different types of music. I know this world, so that's why I came on, and we kind of talked about the writing of it, and he let me come on, very generously he let me come on and take control of the script, myself, and so I worked on it for 9 months, but we were always collaborating, the whole stage, and then it just became what it is now.
And as a writer-actor, how did you find that collaboration? Was there any difference to it? I get the impression, just from watching the film, that John is a generous writer-actor. He's about the thing and not about showing off, yet he's got a strong central role, but the other three guys certainly have a lot of screen time and a lot to give as characters.
Yeah, I think when you're working with an actor, what you're always looking for is a generosity and an openness, and being completely open to things. And John was the first thing for him to give me his script. That's a personal story to him, So that's something that he It's you're talking about his life, this aspects of his family in there, his father, the relationship. So for him to give that over to someone else and let them rewrite it, that was very generous and very open, and it was brilliant, and it showed that he trusted me, and I obviously trusted him, and we worked together because we worked together on films before that, Stalker and King of the Travellers, so we built that trust,
Well, you'd already put it out there with the way you got involved with Stalker as well, yeah?
Yeah, it was a kind of a different writing process on Stalker. We lived together in the same house on Stalker, and we wrote together at the laptop, and we were bouncing ideas off each other, and it was pretty crazy.
Maybe it was some of them there was less paper at the set than there was in this one.
Exactly, yeah. It was probably too crazy, like the two of us in the same room together, but this was a more structured approach, and we were going for something that would be international, because we thought, let's just go wild with Stalker and let off the loose, and just let's do anything we want, and even if there's moments where it goes maybe a little bit over the top, we can just be free to do anything. Whereas with this, we specifically knew the genre. We were just looking to develop the script in the story, but in the way we wanted to make it as well, and that was it.
We kind of touched on it briefly, the difference between Stalker and this film, as you say, that you had a lot more responsibility to get people's money back. Whereas with Stalker, you had a freedom of kind of mad expression, but people were going to ask questions at a certain point. Why do you want to do that?
That's always the way.
but you can still feel a good sense of freedom and trust on the production end of things. How was that? Because again, you did have money from BAI, TV3, and there's another company outside your own company. Was it Nicebridge?
There was Filmbase.
And Filmbase as well, yeah, of course.
We're
Let's
here.
not forget
We're
Filmbase.
Filmbase now. So thanks to Filmbase and Egg Post Production.
Which is a big deal.
It was amazing to get that, and it was the producer really that got us that, because we were looking to close the finance from the BAI, and we had literally 5 days, and myself and John were driving around Dublin City at 8 a.m. and I said, John, I picked him up, I said, John, if we don't close it in 5 days, we're losing the contract, we're losing the money we have from BAI. So I said, we've got to find a producer, like it's all going to fight, you know. So we were looking around, and none of them, they were all like, no way, you'll never be able to do it, you know, you never.
Can you say what the budget was, or do you want to keep that on?
Well, the total final budget was 450,000.
Wow!
But this was 300 grand from the BEI that we had, like. But they had a 12-month contract, and during the process, the script, the development, the company we had on they weren't happy with how because they wanted a more structured approach. They weren't happy with how myself and John were doing it. So we were trying to do it this particular way, a more character-driven piece, and very authentic to the area. And an authenticity of character as well.
But not only authentic to it, you're in the area, which is a big deal. I mean, Darndale's a tough enough place, and you have to know people to move around, and that's another fear that someone outside would have.
That's a whole different. Yeah, exactly. And you need to work with the area, I suppose. When you're shooting in a neighbourhood like that, you need to have either people that are working on the film in terms of crew, or you need to have people that are cast. So like we had, a couple of guys that lived there. Like God Creative is from there. He's a rapper, a hip hop artist.
Which guy was he in it?
He was the guy with the samurai sword who was sniffing the cocaine off the sword. So
he had his moments. He was good.
He's great, man. He's unbelievable musician, you know. Yeah. So he works with another guy, Daniel Doherty, who did the score, and they work out of a studio called Darklands. But God Creative is from Darndale, so he was perfect for the film, in terms of the music. And I just thought, he'll work well in a scene or two. He actually plays 2 or 3 characters in the film. I don't know if you noticed that.
I don't think I did actually.
He's in it a couple of times. He just looks different.
He took the beard off, didn't he?
No, he's just dressed up slightly different, and he's got.
You see, that's good filmmaking when you can do that. Say, we can use you again.
yeah.
A bit of mad had as an extra one time. I got to play 3 people in one day.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing, because you don't have the money for the extras. Like even the nightclub scene. We had to fill out the Blacker, which is the local nightclub in Darndale that the lads were going to, because the lads lived together for 6 weeks in a house, and they were going there, drinking and partying and whatever to get into character. But we had to fill that nightclub out.
So what they told you?
Into basically a full capacity. Like you're talking 200 people, and we've no budget for this, to pay extra. So we literally had the first AD, Craig, he was going out in the street, and a couple of lads, and we literally had to pull people in the day and say, here, do you want to come in? And there were people from Darndale just came into the club, and then I had a megaphone, and we were like, can you all start dancing? We're going to put on the music now. John's going to get up on the DJ. And John, they knew John, they recognised him, because he's from Darndale, and everyone knows him there. So he was getting the crowd going as well, But so we're just... the extras, trying to make it look fucking like it's a full room.
You did it. You achieved it. I mean, there's definitely a great energy in those scenes that you feel like there's lots going on outside the frame. Yeah. But it is from knowing the frame, isn't it? You find as a director, once you know what's in front of the camera,
that matters. Yeah,
that's all that matters.
The problem is, I didn't know the frame. Because we had 2 cameras running. So I'm with the handheld camera on the dance floor, and I start doing the Prodigy dance, back in the 90s, going back to my youth, and I'm trying to get people dancing because no one's dancing. They're all just standing around, just kind of moving their shoulders a little bit, but no one wants to dance. And you're kind of like, come on. So then the music comes on, so they're dancing, but you're talking about shooting over 3 hours. So if you shot one take, you'd get people dancing, but when you're getting over a couple of hours and you're trying to get dialogue, because the guys are going through the crowd and they're dancing and talking.
And when you found you had to play music for real, even though normally you wouldn't on a set, you try and have them do it to silence.
Yeah, it was just I've done those scenes before where you're shooting in a pub, so I just knew that you have a couple of takes where you've got full on, get your wide shots, getting certain moments that you need, and then you go to the more kind of intimate stuff, the dialogue, and you can turn off the music for that, and you don't necessarily need everybody, all the extras in the room going crazy then.
Did you do any storyboarding for scenes like that, or did you just kind of have a good sense of a shot list and know where the kind of timing of it?
Yeah, storyboard. Everything in the film was storyboarded. I don't really tend to do shot lists. I prefer just having storyboards. But then on the day, just been very open to change, because you never know like how a scene's going to look in terms of the lighting, in terms of the set. It might change, but or maybe the actors want to do something slightly different. So I never like to be totally static. I like to always be open and free, and maybe be open to any ideas.
The storyboards are great for opening your head and thinking differently about what you've written down. It gets it away from being just words on paper.
Exactly, and it becomes a visual medium then, because that's really what cinema is. So you're trying to make it cinematic, but a lot of that was working with the DP as well, Michael Lavelle, who was unbelievable.
Yeah, I was going to go to that. Michael did a fantastic job for you. You must have had a good relationship there. It feels that way looking at it.
Yeah, it was amazing. I'd be we spent a couple of weeks before the shoot, and then during the shoot, because we were almost trying to catch up and trying to plan for the next day. After shooting, say we finish at 6, like I'd actually go to Michael's house then, and we'd keep working till midnight or 1 in the morning, and we had to do that because we were trying to stay on top of it. So
what was your schedule, just to get a sense of that?
Schedule was 15 days.
Wow.
Which is crazy, because I was thinking the other
Jesus,
day,
I thought you'd been more generous looking at it.
Yeah, like, if you look at like a film like Mean Streets, that was 27 days. And Scorsese always says that's a very sloppy film because he didn't have enough time. So like 15 days is just insane, like really, because you're talking about a 95-page script, you're talking about probably 40 speaking roles and multiple different locations. The good thing though was that it was very contained in one neighbourhood. But you're also talking about like a lot of barriers to shooting, when you're in Darndale on the street. Like we had a lot of exterior stuff, which I love doing in neighbourhoods and on the street on location, but you have so many different sounds going on, the helicopters and it's right beside the airport, so you've got
it's not very noisy. It's north side myself, and it's a noisy part of the world.
Oh, it's crazy.
Because you're just on the traffic line for the planes all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And you had the motorbikes, the dirt bikes going on so there was one scene that John was talking to Sarah, the character in the film. He was kind of outside her house. It's actually cut from the film, but he's talking to her. She's at her window, and there was a plane literally every 50 seconds. Like it was crazy, and there was motorbikes.
What they say is shoot a picture of a plane, and then you get away with it.
Yeah, we tried to do that as well. To feel like it's part of the feeling of escapism. For these guys that are locked in their situation, they're almost enclosed. They're caged in this neighbourhood where there is a lack of opportunity. And myself and Michael talked about that in terms of how we're going to shoot it as well. Like, where it's all you're going to see the roads, the way Darndale is circular, and it's and also the cages in terms of the barriers, the rails. So we're going to shoot certain moments behind the railings, like Dano, where he's eyeing up Dara behind the rails. It's almost like that feeling of he's like a caged animal.
Yeah.
So you have references to that. So that was one of the kind of themes or ideas that we talked about. That feeling of being enclosed and there's no escape, and the only escape is for Jay to leave to Spain. That's his only way out, and that's why at the end.
So it was a conscious decision to never really break out of Darndale at all, as you say.
Yeah, no.
From the story initially, or all the way through.
No, never. We would never wanted to get out of the neighbourhood, because this is a neighbourhood film, as in like a hood genre film, where it's enclosed within a neighbourhood, and because if you see the guys, I think maybe in town or in their jobs somewhere else, it doesn't have that same feel. It doesn't have that same entrapment almost.
I remember one of the characters goes, we go to that office, it's on the edge of Darndale. And it was a very specific line that I felt, you're making a point of. It was Darndale and then it was the world.
That's exactly what it was. It actually, I think in the script it read Edge of Darndale. Like it was like that's the line. And outside they're gonna rob something. It's outside of there.
As if it's almost okay to go there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's okay to rob those guys because they're not like us.
I still can't believe you did it in 15 days. And on that budget, that's an amazing bit of work. So what was it? Was it kind of 15-hour days or what? For everybody else, I mean, in terms of shooting?
No, it was just regular days, like 10 hours, but we kept running over, and the producer was going crazy, going crazy at me. So I'm under mad pressure from the first AD and the producer and whoever else the whole time, Mark, we've no money for this, we just ran over. everyone's pissed off or whatever, and but it was just I understood where he was coming from, because we were trying to do this film in such a short space of time. We were under massive constraints budget wise with the crew, with the camera stuff we had. Like Michael pulled an amazing deal with the lighting guys. We had great gaffers and different crew. So but I was just trying to get what we needed, because I was trying to compromise a little bit, but not. I always was trying to just make sure we just get that scene, because some of the scenes were just really, really complicated, because we wanted to do these tracking shots, or not tracking, but oneers, where it's either steady cam or it's on the Movi,
Was there a lot of steady in it?
Yeah, there's a lot of ththese oneer shots. So
yeah, I remember, especially with like the chainsaw scene and then the party scene, you use it quite. There was a really nice one.
Yeah, that was
there.
all in one,
Yeah.
and it wasn't just a stylistic thing. It was in moments where you're in the moment and you want to feel what's it like to be, say, in a party scene, or where Sean comes up. I don't want to give it away, but what happens in the scene with Sean, where he comes up, into the field. That moment where you feel like you're in it, and you're a part of it, and because when you hold on that, when you
quite
hold
a
on
prevalent device in that genre, as it were. I mean, you do see it a lot. Scorsese again used amazing ones, especially Goodfellas. I think
he uses it unbelievably, and the reason he uses it so well is because he's showing you what it's like to go through the restaurant and to be like a mob guy, when you're walking through these areas. But I think sometimes in films they don't use it well, because they're just trying to do it because it looks great,
it's like seeing the one done badly that forgets that it's supposed to be organic.
Yeah,
and you can feel that the bounce and the movements going to one thing and the other thing. I mean,
yeah.
Spielberg's another great oneer filmmaker.
Yeah, unbelievable, and but I think Straight Outta Compton now, I actually really liked the film. It was amazing, but I thought they did that a couple of times where they were just doing it to show, like, look at this camera shot. And I hate that when
I don't mind when Brian De Palma does it. For some reason.
For what shot?
Oh, Brian, but anything, Raising Cain,
right.
Untouchables,
Yeah. Oh, jeez, yeah. The baby going down the stairs. I was, this is one of the things I did. I studied shots before this film, and I without replicating other shots, I looked at shots and I was trying to think, how can we make really fucking unique shots, like, so not copy shots, because I know,
and use it to tell the story. That's
the difficult thing, use them to tell the story.
But it's what happens with a lot of your new filmmakers. They get caught up on the excitement of what the camera can do, and they forget about what they're pointing at.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the danger.
All about, and it can be used in certain ways to maybe build tension or to create suspense. Like De Palma's genius at that, creating suspense within scenes and building that. But actually, one of the shots that we have in the film that I'm talking about, the Sean, when he's walking through the field, without giving it away, but anyway, he's walking through this field, he's holding something, but it's that actually came from, I was discussing how we can do this shot, and I was talking to my brother-in-law, who's the makeup guy on it, and through the discussions we were kind of filming it on the camera phone, and my sister was holding something behind her back, and I realized I could do it in a certain way, just through exploring, exploring, like, where can it be and how are we going to build that tension, by just where you see something and you know what's going to happen. The audience knows what's going to happen, but
it's how it happens that really is where the sort of revelation comes from.
Yeah, and so graphically, how it happens then, because you hear about those things, in the media, those see, I don't want to give away the scene, but you
have to go and see it and find out who Sean is and what he does and why it's a good shot.
Yeah, it's
we'll
quite hard
move
to
on
explain
from
what
actually.
I'm talking about.
But no, they'll have to go and see the film. You just tease them so they can go and see it.
Sorry, I should be talking about it.
But tell me this, but that kind of pressure that you had, as you said, 15 days is amazing, but was there that sense of rushed worry, or did you just go into it knowing where the energy was going to be and get a sense of it right from the start? Because your first day and your last day are two different things in terms of your mood and the attitude.
Geez, man, yeah, totally. Like, the first day was just, it was very hectic, because it takes you a couple of days just to find your feet and for people to listen to you.
and you're scheduling it that way and thinking that way in your shots, aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to do the hardest shot first.
Yeah, exactly. And,
if possible.
and like I worked with a lot of these guys before, but you know, I'm probably quite a soft director in terms of how I work with people. You know, I'm not like an authoritarian or like I don't start saying you're fired on the first day to get respect.
It's
You
a
know,
bit boring that nowadays, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. Like I'm looking to work with people who fuck the respect. We're all together. And let's just have the crack and make a great film and focus. You know,
But you had a
that's all
great
I'm looking
confederate in John anyway.
yeah,
from the
like
start there.
and the lads, and that's why I'm trying to work with people like that, you know.
It does sound like as well you did a good solid preparation to be able to work that 15 days as well. I mean, John was saying the guys got into character and spent a lot of time together before they went anywhere.
Yeah, so John's, you know, John's gang, you know, Kobe, Glenner, Jay, and they lived in a house together for 6 weeks, and they were getting into character. It was John's mother's house actually, so it was weird because I felt that was a perfect place for that to happen because John owned the house. It's his house, so the lads are obviously gonna be like they're living in his house, so he becomes the leader, you know. And they just started to assume their positions, which was how we envisaged them originally. They became exactly like that, you know. Like Kobe started being the laid back one and a bit funny, and the other Dano and Glenner started having a bit of tension there, and they started having read-throughs, and they were going out having a crack in the blacker. But it became like the gang, exactly what myself and John wanted, like what we talked about. So that was good. But we also had Darrell's gang, you know, meeting up and spending time together, like in Damo's house, like Jimmy Smallhorn and his guys, and not meeting the other guys, so that there's complete separation there between those two groups, you know, so that hopefully it'll show on screen. I don't think they met each other until we had those moments.
Which is not, it's nice to do that. Did you feel like that was important, or did you care that the two opposing forces met on the day on the set? I think there can be too much made of some of those ideas.
Yeah, I think sometimes there can be too much made, but also I think...
Greengrass used it in that film he did with Tom Hanks with the Somalian pirates. No one saw the lads who were playing the Somalian pirates until they actually attacked the ship. I go, that's great, you can do that the first time, but it's not it, you're only going to do it the first time.
Yeah.
Get back and pretend you never saw them before, now we're going to do it again.
Yeah, I know, that's the thing, like, you know, these things are a bit weird and they don't necessarily always work, especially when they say like, oh, I'm not going to do it until we're shooting, say, the first take, and then I'm going to show them the script or something, because the thing is, you don't usually use the first take, or you might get a good reaction on a close up on one angle for then you're going to use loads of the rest for the rest of the scene. So, but I do think feeling is very important in terms of film. So everything is like months and months of preparation, how you're interacting with people, how you're getting on with people, and you're having this thing, and it all just feeds into the film, I think. And that's why it all, you know, I think.
I got a great quote from Ben Wheatley he won some kind of Ford award years ago, symposium, and he said it's saying the lines with intent is great over and over. A good actor can always do that, but reacting to them and seeing it in their eyes is another thing, and that goes very, very fast. And keeping that energy level and understanding that it's there, no matter how professional they are, there's a point where they kind of peak. So you are trying to get it at a certain point. Yeah. Which is, again, you as a director, you're trying to manipulate 4 or 5 things at once. Yeah. And then, but also trusting what people can bring to the table.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things going on. You know, when you're shooting, when you're on set, when you're trying to find the moment within a scene, there's so many different things at play, you know. And it's the interaction between the actors as well. It's great when you have two actors that really connect as well, you know, and have they're playing off each other. It's beautiful when you get that. So yeah, you know, you're just so many things kind of at play. But I think a lot of this stuff you know, the groundwork I think should be done beforehand, so that when you get on set, you know, I remember my brother was on set one time and he said, I think it was one of the films, Stalker, one of those, and he said, oh, you're not directing there, like there's the other guys shouting or whatever, you know, like, and I said, I'd said to him then later, you know, that day, like, you know, you don't really need to shout, you know, because you've hopefully worked out the character for 3 months beforehand, so when you get there, you don't need to start saying anything, you know. Yeah. If they're doing something a bit fucking fucked up or weird, you know, you're gonna say, what are you doing? You know. So hopefully, like, they understand it.
Yeah, I find out with people that they think directing it's intensely proactive, as in you're constantly doing something and puppeteering people, and it's the opposite. Directing half time is the things you don't say.
100%. Almost like feeling like Jim Sheridan said something I thought was really, really interesting, because I definitely would feel that sometimes. But he was saying, you know, when you're going into a scene with actors, you were almost giving them so much control and trust and power of their lines within a scene that you're almost saying, I don't know what's going on here. Tell me what's going on. And when you're saying that, then the person's going, oh, I know what's going on. You know, this is I'm going to own this thing. I'm going to own this scene. So you're almost stepping back, but you've built the bond, and you've talked to them about the scene. You've kind of, maybe if there's you've tweaked certain things, you know, along the way, and then you're just letting them do themselves. Let them act. You know, you're not an actor. You're just a fucking director. So step back and let the magic happen, because they're going to bring something that you could never do.
It's why you got them to do it in the first place.
Exactly.
I think John Huston's great quote from him was that he said that he felt directing, that 90% of his directing job, at least in terms of actors, was casting them.
Yeah.
He said, don't cast the wrong actor, because then you're going to have an awful hard job for the rest of the time.
Definitely. Casting is just so important.
And I feel as well that it's not just what they can do in front of the camera, it's how they're going to affect the energy of everything throughout that, especially on that schedule you had, 15 days.
Yeah.
If the energy's wonky, it upsets everything.
Yeah, and it's also, do they understand the material? Like, do they connect with the material and with you as a director? Because, you know, when you meet people and you're auditioning to certain people, like, or you might get an actress or an actor, this has happened before, that they're almost like too strong for the character. The actress or actor, like, it's like De Niro not getting the role for The Godfather. Maybe he was almost a certain way.
The
like
Pacino part.
Yeah, like James Caan, and obviously De Niro was unbelievable, like, and he didn't get that, you know. He didn't get that. No, sorry, it was the James Caan role, I think.
Oh, was it the James Caan role? Okay,
The
yeah.
Godfather, yeah.
Which is great, isn't it? Because it turned out very well for them.
He auditioned, but I was thinking about that more, and I was thinking maybe because he wasn't coming across as a family man. Because if you look at James Caan in that film, he's very like family oriented.
Oh yeah, but he's a wonderful ball of contradictions. It's all about family, but I'm going to shag this mistress away now.
Oh yeah, completely, like, you know, the juxtaposition.
I mean, that's the introduction to him, is a door banging away at a wedding.
Yeah. I think that's always like really interesting when you can have two opposites working together. It's really powerful. Like whether it's in music, you know, like it's say we're boxing and classical music, like in Raging Bull, or whether it's literally just in two characters and they're just oil and water, you know, like a buddy story where they're just different, like in Swingers, you know, or in Sideways.
It is, but it's back to this thing of casting, because you're not just casting one person, as in like, okay, I'll cast you, yeah, you're great, now I get you, you're great. You want to see what they all look like and whether they're floating around on that screen together.
Yeah, that's it.
Back to the Godfather example, is like Caan is the most unusual looking of the three brothers. The other two, they've got that Italian look, that dark look. And if you had De Niro in that mix as well, they just look too obviously
too Italian, maybe. That's interesting.
He almost looks like a cuckoo in the nest, in fact.
The look is important as well, you know, and an actor and actress, they can't help what they look like, you know. It's just. But yeah, sometimes it doesn't.
So that's why Vittorio De Sica got into that neo-realism. He believed that actors could only do so much, no matter how great they were. So he was always going out looking for ordinary people to play roles with. Especially if he's a baker. Well, he knows what baking is, so he's been auditioning for the role all his life.
That's it. It's the authenticity of a character, you know. And I'm always looking for that. So it's difficult sometimes, but you know. But the thing is, with non-actors, the experience does count for a lot, you know, and star quality and that stuff, you know, learning lines, a lot of that stuff. So, you know. And
again, the non-actor term I find is a very it doesn't really cover what it means for someone to come in and want to do a part. Some people come along as non-actors, yet they've got all the intent that you need for it. Others don't. They're going to be shyer, and you're not going to use them in the same way. Yeah. Did you find that? 'Cause I mean, you got a few good few non-actors in there, I think.
Yeah.
And it gave great performances as well.
Yeah. Well, like most of the non-actors we have would be this kind of small roles, but there was just within the process, you know, finding different people, characters from the area, or people that we just would, like, for instance, there's a scene where Little Dialector, his name is Paul Allwright now, he's changed his name, he's a brilliant musician, he has some music in the film, but he plays Glenner. But there's a scene where we were kind of trying to find this thing where Jay is dealing to these two guys and Glenner is trying to explain about his music to the girl, you know, to make it authentic, but he's explaining about his new album, and we found this girl and she was just in Darnell, she was kind of hanging around the set, but she was just perfect, you know, and it was a nice contrast between what she looked like to what Glenner looked like, because he's kind of fair and she's kind of very dark, and she just fit the scene and she was very authentic. So we let her just improvise, and I just started letting them chat. So it wasn't really in the script, and we just said, like, let's chat about your album. So he starts telling her about his album and takes out his headphones, and he's actually listening to his album, and he's explaining, like, here, listen to my new track, and she's like, when's it coming out, or, you know, and so it was so natural, you know. But we're playing that against the background, because we had the foreground that's going on, but the background, the real thing's going on, which is John, you know, what he's going to about to witness, you know, what he's going to see without giving it away again.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, look, we should start wrapping up because you've got another interview to go to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I hope, is this going to get distribution in England as well? I think you're showing.
Yeah, we're kind of working on that. Like we're seeing how this cinema release is going to go, but Wildcard are working with a distributor in the UK, so it's going to be coming out thereafter. Yeah, but just hopefully people here will go see it.
And future projects for yourself? I think you mentioned something to me the other day.
Yeah, so I'm working on a TV show called Darklands. It's a 6-part drama for Virgin Media that just got the go-ahead. So that's kind of the main project. And then I've got a few other kind of feature scripts, like a comedy and one or two other ones.
Finally, a comedy.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You do feel that you're kind of escaping the dark genre, yeah.
I need to, yeah, like the thing is, like, I need to do something else. Like, I remember hearing an interview with Scorsese, and he was saying there's no way he's going to do something else in the crime genre. He has to do, once he does, you know, like another different type of genre, then he can go back and do that again, you know. But I suppose I'm just taking it project by project. Like, if it's a good project,
yeah, it's a good
fuck
project.
it, you know.
It just happens, as you say.
It just happens that those ones keep rising to the, you know, getting the fun and stuff.
Well, what was Scorsese's first comedy? King of Comedy, wasn't it? Or was
King
it,
Comedy, yeah, but that was like
After
his
Hours?
8th film or something, I think.
Yeah.
But he made Boxcar Bertha, Who's Knocking at My Door, Alice Doesn't Live Here before he made Mean Streets. He made all these films, you know. I remember visiting his house on Mulberry Street. You know, I was stalking, you know, where he lived.
As you do.
Yeah, and his neighbours took me around the neighbourhood and showed me, like, the Scorsese Italian cookbook, and they showed me into the butcher shop where he shot scenes from Who's Knocking at My Door, and this is back in 2001.
And on that note, thank you, Mark. Good luck with it, and we'll be
Thanks a
keeping
million.
an eye out.
Thank you.
Cheers.